co-hosts John Stanberry and Franklin Chansey. This is Backfirea.
All right, welcome to another edition of Backfire this morning with John Stanberry, Daniel Brantley, and myself, Steve Hickson. Franklin has left the building. He's gone to Chicagoland to get his batteries recharged.
Oops.
He had to go get his battery recharged up there in the Democratic land of Chicago.
Well, I hope he'll pay attention to how well Democratic policies are working in the city of Chicago. Now, I hope he doesn't learn the way a lot of people learn, which is getting shot or murdered in the city. Since its crime rate, even though it's one of the confiscatory gun policy cities, they have one of the highest murder rates in the country.
Well, as a going away gift last week, Steve did give him a bulletproof jacket.
Yeah, and a 38. Anyway, he'll go up there, and I'm sure he'll learn something and come back and tell us all about it. Right, John?
He's a liberal. I don't think they learn anything.
There's one for old Franklin while he's gone today. I tell you, Donald Trump was on the road yesterday with the news media, wasn't he?
He was.
What do you think about him these days? Give me your honest opinion.
You know, people react to the personality, and we'll have to see. The polling data shows that more and more people are sort of reacting to that. I still don't know how that's going to shake out on Election Day. Now, Hillary, he may not be running against Hillary.
What's going on with Hillary then?
Well, I mean, the email stuff is really starting to heat up a good bit.
Do you think they're really going to try to stick something to her?
Well, the problem is it's just getting thicker and thicker to be able to not. It's
hard to lie your way out of all these corners, isn't it?
Well, for example, there's a Democratic law professor. He's a former Department of Justice official. He was Dan Metcalf. He dealt with information disclosure issues for more than 25 years as the director of the Justice Department's Office of Information and Privacy. Now, he has said that he is a registered Democrat and he will vote for Hillary Clinton in November if she gets the nomination and does not get indicted. Now, that's his official position. But he said after this report came out last week that given the facts and the law are so clear in Mrs. Clinton's case, it is difficult to imagine her not being indicted, quote, unless the White House or a top DOJ official intervenes.
What did you see the polling, the consolidated polling where they had Trump versus Clinton? Trump would win by a couple points. It's like 46-43, something like that. But then when it was Trump versus Sanders, now again, this is consolidated polling where they take them all and kind of average them out.
Right.
Sanders beats him by like 14, 16 points, something like that.
Well, I mean, there's two things there. Partly that people haven't paid attention to Sanders, and so all they know is that he's not indicted.
He's not Hillary?
Not going to be indicted. But yeah, that is scary. The scary thing is that the kids, especially in the Sanders camp, have no clue as to the real world effects of socialism. You know, they're out here chanting and cheering for socialism. All you got to do, and I've tried to talk about it the last 2 or 3 weeks, is look at Venezuela. And you want to see what socialism is, look at Venezuela.
I really think that the people that are really chanting for Bernie Sanders are just people that don't have anybody else to root for. They're not for Hillary.
That's probably
a lot of them are actually, they think they're socialists. And that's the really scary part.
Well, I think a lot of the Democratic movement is getting into socialism right now. I mean, the whole Democratic
Party. Party's socialist. You know, the DNC chairman, who, by the way, looks like she may be voted out of office by her own people.
Yeah, what's going on with her, John? I know you've kept up with her.
Well, you know, they were talking about it last night. That
what's her name again?
Debbie Wasserman Schultz from Florida.
She's a nutcase.
They said she has managed, it's not unusual for the chairman of the Democratic National Committee to have the Republicans not like her, but she's managed to have the Democrats not like her. They said a lot in the Clinton campaign are not happy with her. Apparently she's not well liked in the Obama administration. The Sanders people are mad at her.
Well, John.
Yeah.
John.
The Sanders people say that she swayed the whole election process.
Well, she did. Everybody says that. Even the liberal media will say, yeah, she pretty much slanted the process towards Hillary. Early on, when they didn't want Sanders to have any coverage to protect Hillary, they didn't schedule any debates. Well, then when he started actually picking up steam and they were afraid that he was going to overtake her, then they did schedule some debates.
On Super Bowl Sunday at the same time.
Right.
Let's have debates, but let's bury them.
No kidding. The Democratic debates, nobody knew when they were on. It was amazing.
Well, they didn't want anybody to actually listen to any of these answers.
Yeah.
Hillary, she wouldn't talk unless she knew what the questions were.
Right.
She continues to do that, right? Isn't that why she turned down the debate with Bernie?
Sure.
Before California?
Because they wouldn't give her the questions on the front end.
Mm-hmm. What you looking for, Steve?
Coffee.
It's
Just it.
yeah, there should be.
By the way, when we talk about these Bernie Sanders people and them voting for him, he was actually asked, and surprisingly, he was asked by Latin American news outlets. Univision asked him about Venezuela and what's going on with socialist policies throughout the South America and Central America.
Right.
Now, keep in mind, Bernie Sanders is a guy that in the 1980s actually argued that bread lines were a sign of economic progress.
Sheesh.
Now, this is a quote from Bernie Sanders. He said, it's funny. Sometimes American journalists talk about how bad a country is when people are lining up for food. That's a good thing. In other countries, people don't line up for food. The rich get the food and the poor starve to death. So his idea of economic progress are bread lines for food. But anyway.
Because nobody has anything.
Well, I mean, here's the real point. This past week, he was actually asked to comment, and he refused to comment on Venezuela. He refused to comment on what socialism was doing all through Central America. The quote was, now this is a correspondent from Univision said, after they went back and forth a little bit, he finally said, so you don't have an opinion about the crisis in Venezuela? And Sanders said, of course I have an opinion, but as I said, I'm focused on my campaign. So he refused to comment on that collapse, basically, of socialism. I mean, people are starving to death in Venezuela. They're eating cats and dogs out of the street. They can't print their own money.
What's going to happen in Venezuela? I mean,
they're going to collapse, and they're going to have a revolution, and people are going to die.
The pet industry is falling apart.
I'm surprised that they haven't already had the revolution as bad as things are.
Well, the thing is, this is what socialist governments always do, and I actually posted this a while back. There were some people talking about socialism and how great it was, and I said, it's amazing to me that no one seems to ever talk about the 100 million plus people who were murdered in the name of socialism in the last century. All of these socialist regimes eventually lead to totalitarianism because you can't keep people starving forever without them rising up. And when they rise up, just like the government in Venezuela is now doing, the military cracks down on them.
Yeah. Do they have guns in Venezuela?
The public doesn't.
They took them away, didn't they?
By the way, just so you understand with Bernie's policies, one of the things that Bernie says all the time is the system is rigged. Now, no one ever asked Bernie, so just how exactly do you mean that it's rigged, and do you have any facts to back that up? So just keep in mind the next time you hear someone say the system is rigged, in 2015, the 400 richest people in the world, now that's who he talks about being so unfair, had net losses of $19 billion. So the 400 richest people in the world lost $19 billion in total last year. So if the system is so rigged for those people, don't you think they could have done a better job than that? They lost $19 billion.
It's hard to make money when Democrats are in office, isn't it?
Well, the problem is the socialists and the liberals.
You think we'll get any Democratic calls this morning?
I don't know.
I bet we will.
I'll give you another good example. We've recently had a fuss over the minimum wage. 1948, the unemployment rate among 16 and 17-year-old black males was under 10%. Now think about that, under 10%. Now, they started on the minimum wage increases. After they raised the minimum wage up, the unemployment rate for black males that age was never under 30% for more than 20 consecutive years, from 71 through 94. And in some of those years, the unemployment rate for black teenagers exceeded 40%, and a couple of years it exceeded 50%. So before you had a minimum wage, you had an unemployment rate for black teenagers of under 10%. Once you started meddling in the economy, meddling in the market, they saw 40 and 50% unemployment. And that's socialist policies.
In those teenage years is when you learn work ethic.
Yes, but the real problem there is most of those kids don't ever stay at minimum wage for any length of time because it's an entry-level position that you gain experience.
Exactly.
If you don't ever get that job because the minimum wage cuts that job out, which is what it does, then you don't get that experience and you never enter the job market. I mean, it's devastating for years and years for those kids. And, as I said last week, 6,000 Wendy's locations across the country will be installing automated teller machines for you to place your order.
They'll have automatic cookers here before long.
Well, they may, but
it'll be an assembly line. Just mash a button.
Those are young people's jobs, minimum wage jobs that the Democrats claim to be championing that they've destroyed.
Well, it's because they don't see them as young people jobs. They see them as careers.
No. It's because they don't care. All they want is an issue they can demagogue to get people to go, yeah, stick it to that other guy.
They keep, I'm sure we're making a lot of Democrats mad this morning. I'm sorry. We just keep.
No, we are not making a lot of Democrats mad. There aren't a lot of Democrats that listen.
Well, I know a few that do.
We're making the Democrats mad.
Let's put it this way. If you've listened to this and you're mad, please feel free to call in and explain to me how Wendy's, with 6,000 jobs, well, more than 6,000 locations that are doing away with all of the front clerk people, explain how that happened. I mean, it happened within weeks of the minimum wage increase.
Phone lines are open, 614-5553.
Explain what's going on in Venezuela. Explain how people are having to kill cats and dogs to survive. There's no toilet paper. They can't print their own money. There's water shortages. There's electricity shortages. Schools aren't meeting on Fridays anymore. Businesses are only opening 2 days a week to save electricity.
And let's say one more thing. They're oil rich. What happened?
They're the fifth largest oil reserve country in the world.
So what happens?
Socialism happened.
So where's the oil money going?
Well, he nationalized a bunch of the oil companies, and as per normal, government can't do anything as well as private enterprise can, so they can't pump the oil out.
Oh, God. Andy Burke, Chattanooga. Let's talk about something local here for a minute. I was reading this morning in the Chattanooga Times. Mayor Burke is involved in a little conflict of interest with one of his employees, I think.
Nope.
Well, the story is that's not the first time or the first employee.
Oh, really?
This is apparently a pattern.
What is this conflict of interest?
Well, husbands don't like their wives fooling around with other men.
There was a wife and a husband in a domestic dispute. The police were having to be called in. And
he apparently has had several top aides who are attractive younger women, and the fact that they're married doesn't seem to bother him as far as his showering interest on them. Wow.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's actually pretty tawdry because the latest one is that the husband, from what I understand, he engaged her cell phone so that he could track where she was at, and it showed that she was at a Mexican restaurant. And when he got there and went around back, she was in the car with the mayor, and apparently their conduct, the husband felt, was inappropriate. And apparently there were also some pictures on her cell phone. He's now charged, the husband is charged with a domestic assault. Now, he says that she hit him multiple times as well. But from what I understand, the fight was over her cell phone because there were pictures and text messages on the cell phone.
Well, the phone was destroyed because she used it to hit her husband over the head with, she says, and the phone was smashed.
That's what they say. But the story was the reason he was trying to get the phone was because there were text messages on the phone from the mayor.
I think they were texting at the time he tried to grab the phone.
Right.
Anyway, there's a little bit of going on in Chattanooga.
That's sad.
Well, and
Hey, Chattanooga gets a little bit. Cleveland's off the hook here.
well, but I will have to say though, like this story today is on the B section. It's on the front page, relatively small little headline on the B section. And all it says is husband of Burke's senior advisor gets new court date. It doesn't really talk about the crux of the story.
He's a Democrat, isn't he?
Now, we've had Cleveland he's a Democrat.
Okay.
He's a Chicago Democrat, by the way.
Oh, okay.
He's from Chicago originally.
All right.
Their city is embroiled in a crime epidemic. They have no good relationship with the police department down there. There's all kinds of stuff happening. This is not the first time this has happened, but yet it's on the second page. But we've had some sort of nonsense stories on the front page about Cleveland issues. So it would seem to me that maybe the Free Press might want to focus on their own city a little bit and some actually big issues that are going on there before they kind of make issues out of nothing up here.
Anyway, that's our local news for them. Anything around town here going on? You know of?
Well, apparently we've got a new school director in the city.
Oh, they pick one and read that.
As I saw the headline.
I hadn't even looked at it.
John is fetching the newspaper for us.
Yes.
Who is it, John?
Dyer. Dr. Russell Dyer.
Where's he from?
Collierville. Tennessee.
Okay.
He starts on July 1st.
Collierville's a quite smaller town community than ours, right? Or is it?
It's probably not too much smaller than
it's
us.
kind of hard to explain. Collierville is a bedroom community of Memphis, and for years, Collierville was a small town completely separate from Memphis, but like all cities, Memphis has grown and grown and grown.
Right.
And there's been a lot of shifts in the demographics in Memphis, and a lot of people have moved out of Memphis, although now apparently there's some reversal and people are moving back in.
Good.
But Collierville now there's no break between Memphis, Germantown, and Collierville. It's all grown together.
Well, very good.
You think Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders will debate?
No, I don't think they will. I think Trump, as usual, spoke before thinking, and some of his advisors got to him and said, hey, that's probably not a great idea.
Wait a minute. I thought it was a pretty good idea. He was going to raise some more money for charity.
Well, I hope it doesn't take as long for it to actually get to the charities this time.
Now, wait a minute, John. You're starting to act like one of these
No,
reporters here.
things are what they are, and it took a long time for that money to get to the charities, and it's still not entirely clear how much of that money was actually raised when it was originally stated that it was raised.
And it would have been a one-sided debate anyway, because only Bernie had something to benefit. He's the only
That's
one who
the reason that it's not a good idea. Why would you,
there's nothing in it for Trump.
Yeah, why grant your opponent, any opponent?
Well, I think Trump knocked 16 others out. Why not just knock one more?
Well, he wouldn't knock him out.
I think it would be wonderful for Hillary, for Trump.
Well, actually, a lot of people think that Hillary's the only one that would benefit out of that.
I think it would. Help Bernie with Hillary by debating Trump.
Well, he may win California. I mean, she's had to fly into California.
What do you think they would do if she won California? Do you think that
if
would
she
be
won California?
if he won. Bernie.
I think unless she's indicted, I think she's going to get the nomination.
Well, she's got the nomination. I mean, they've rigged that already.
Well, then they're not going to do anything about it. They don't care.
I mean, the system is rigged with all their super delegates over there. They've got the worst system. I mean, it's much worse than ours, right?
There's nothing wrong with ours. Ours has functioned for 150 years.
Well, what about theirs then?
Theirs is kind of bad because it's not. Ours is a straight vote. Now, each state determines how they vote. Some of them vote differently, and it's been the system. For example, the Colorado blow up that Trump fussed about. They've been doing it that way since 1912. I would hope after 1912, that many cycles, he should have figured that out.
I think what's happened during this election is people have realized that their vote doesn't matter sometimes.
Yeah. And my understanding also is that the superdelegates, when they're instituted, weren't supposed to be awarded until the end, right? But now they're awarding them before they even
Right.
their state even has their primaries.
The problem is the Republican Party doesn't really have superdelegates. We don't do that. And to be honest, for all of Trump's fuss and bluster, he actually got more delegates than he got votes. He got a higher percentage of the delegates than he got of the actual votes. So the system actually benefited him rather than...
Tell me what you mean by that.
He got fewer percentage of the votes and more percentage of the delegates. Even while he was complaining about the system being rigged, at the time he had gotten about 37% of the total votes. Mm-hmm. And yet he had gotten about 45 to 46% of the total delegates. So if you want to complain about anybody benefiting from a rigged system, he benefited more than anybody.
You know, John, these delegates are picked by population, are they not? I mean, aren't states granted so many because of their populations?
No, the delegate systems are private systems. The party does that. It's not, the congressmen and all are written into the law, and so you have X number of population for each congressman. The delegates, this is all a private system. So to be honest, if the Republican or Democrat Party wanted to say, we're going to put 12 people in a room and pick the candidate, they could do that if they wanted to, because it's a private system. So I'll be honest with you, that was one of the things that sort of rubbed me the wrong way when Trump was blustering about all of this. He kept talking about elections and the people's voice being, stifled. That was mixing those two concepts together. We're a private organization. For example, in West Tennessee, we had a guy register as a Republican and get on the ticket, and we found out that he was an avowed racist. He was a white supremacist racist. Well, guess what? We said, nope, sorry, you're not going to run as a Republican. We're not going to allow it. Now, under Trump's terms that he pitched these fits over, you would say, well, that's just unfair. That's not right. But the point is, the Republican Party is a private entity, and we had a responsibility to protect the party from something we thought didn't represent the party, and we didn't want it associated with the party. And so we didn't allow that guy to run as a Republican.
So let me ask you a question then. So if you have an independent party that could be formed from an organization like AAA, mm-hmm. that would be all right.
They do whatever they want to do. You can form whatever organization you want.
Okay,
that's the point. And so what was frustrating for me when Trump was fussing about all of this is he had actually gotten more total delegate percentage than he had received vote percentage. So it was very disingenuous for him to say it's not fair. In other words, in New York State, where he got 62% of the vote, but he got 95% of the delegates, he wasn't bothered about that inequality. He was only bothered when it worked against him, not when it worked for him. In Florida, for example, he only got 38 or 9% of the vote in Florida, but he got 100% of the delegates. I don't remember him or any of his supporters complaining about that inequality.
You said he only got 38% of the vote in Florida?
Yeah, there were a bunch of them in it. You can win any of those states when you had 4 or 5 or 6 and certainly 17, you could win it with almost nothing. Well, if it's a winner take all state, mm-hmm. in Florida, he got
it out.
I'll look it up. I don't remember what the percentage was, but my point was it was under 50%.
Why aren't the states all the same? Why is one state winner take all and another one?
Because we believe in states' rights. We believe that the United States is an actual united set of states.
But you said that y'all are the Republicans are a private group.
We are. Each state is also a private group from the RNC. Right. And so the RNC, in believing in states' rights, says, look, we're not going to force Connecticut to do their thing the same way Tennessee does their thing. So they let each state determine how they're going to do it. Go ahead.
Do you think Trump's upset just because he doesn't understand how the system works?
He's not upset now because he got the nomination. I mean, he was playing the game, and he's a populist, and he tells people what they want to hear, and he's really good at messaging, and so he won. But
I've been told he's a genius.
Well, I don't think he's a genius across the board. He might be a genius marketer.
Yeah.
But my problem with it is there are little things like facts. And so for me, it was insulting for him to say, it's not fair because I didn't get the right number of votes in, for example, Iowa, when in Florida, nobody worried about, so let's say, I don't know what it was. Let's say he got 45% of the vote. But that means 55% of the people didn't vote for him. But he got 100% of the delegates. Did he give a speech about how disenfranchised the 55% of the people in Florida who didn't vote for him were? No, he didn't care about that. So for me, it was a very disingenuous argument that he made. Now, that's, he's the nominee, and that's the way the game's played, and he played it well.
Bernie's wanting it changed on the Democratic side.
Well, Bernie's just as disingenuous. In his case, the Democrats actually are a little different because in the Republican Party, each state did it different. None of those states changed anything at the last minute. Everybody knew about it. Trump knew about all these states before he went into them. It was just after he lost that he complained. In Bernie's case, they have rigged the system against him. She went in with 300 and something, these super delegates before it even started, which is a huge advantage.
How does that happen? How can you even rig it that way?
Because it's their deal and they can do whatever they want to do. And if their party base isn't ethically bothered by that, that's what they do. In the state of Tennessee, they got mad at Rosalind Corita, a Democrat state senator, because she voted for Ron Ramsey to be the lieutenant governor. She actually felt like Governor Wilder was mentally unfit for the job. And so she voted for the Republican and he got elected. She had a primary opponent. She actually beat the guy in the race. Well, the state Democrat Executive Committee decided they didn't like the fact that she won. So they just set the election aside and said, nope, she's not the nominee for that Senate seat. The guy she beat is. Now, that's not fair, but that's what she did. That's what the Democrat Party did, and apparently the Democrat Party base wasn't bothered enough by it to complain.
I'm looking at an article here in the paper talking about Americans want change made to the nomination system. I think if they brought it to the light of how it works, I think people have a better understanding of it now.
Well,
and now they're saying it's kind of like a rigged election. It's supposed to be one man, one vote. This is the way it should be.
Well, if you fix that right now, Donald Trump wouldn't have the number of delegates that he has. Mm-hmm. He probably wouldn't have enough to be the nominee right now.
What about you got 17 candidates that spread the votes out.
Well, I mean, that's just the way it shook out.
Yeah. Overall, he's got a majority of the
He's got a majority. He's got a plurality, not a majority. That's the problem. But my point is, if you put that into effect right now, he probably doesn't have enough delegates to be the nominee right now. Because
what if you took the delegates all the way out of it?
Well, who's going to pick him then?
Just the number of votes.
The number of votes.
The delegates represent
one man, one vote.
Well, first off, let's go back again. Here's one of my problems for Donald Trump and for a lot of Donald Trump's people who are writing stuff like this. Mm-hmm. For about the last 30 years, there's a group of us in Bradley County that have been out at midnight putting 4x8 signs up. We've been walking door to door.
I've heard you say
none of those people have ever shown up to do any of that. So it's a little bit, people look at me and go, boy, you get all,
Well, every candidate would have their own supporters that would get out and do it and try to sway.
Yeah, and how that works. Try that. Just look at one of the elections and say, for example, Great Britain. That's how it works over there.
Yeah.
And then you end up cobbling together a coalition government. We have two parties because the founders basically thought that was, now they didn't institute two parties, but they thought the system worked best when we didn't have all these divided governments. For a long time, the vice president was elected separately. And so we've actually had instances where you had a president from one party and a vice president from another party. At some point, we decided that didn't make an effective government. So my point here just is this is a bunch of people, to be honest, that have never been involved, never took the time to work in the party, never took the time to invest in the party. And then all of a sudden they show up now and they get excited with one guy and they want all of the spoils all at once. So for me, it's a little frustrating and aggravating because guess what? Just like a lot of Barack Obama's voters probably aren't going to show up for Hillary, a lot of Donald Trump's people after he's gone won't show up for the Republican Party again. And that bothers me. I'm there every time, and there are a lot of us that are there every time. But unfortunately, we're the people that are now being attacked for being, oh, y'all are the party insiders. Well, hell yeah, I'm the party insider. I'm the guy that actually works, that does the watermelon cuttings and puts the signs up and walks door to door. I'm the one that's actually worked.
Would you do that for your candidate, though?
I would do it for my candidate, but I do it for my party too, because that's one of the reasons you've seen me on for example, why I took a position in this, because I think the party stands for something. Personally, Donald Trump, just like Mitt Romney didn't, just like John McCain didn't, I don't think any of those three are the best representations of what I think the party traditionally stood for.
Well, the problem with the party and the traditional part of it is nothing is done. Washington is broke, John.
Because you got too many people like that.
Because the party's broke?
No, because you've got too many people that tell the public what they want to hear. For example, now this is one of the things I'm really critical of Trump about. This argument with the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, over entitlement reform. Look, we have to do entitlement reform. There is no way around it. We are going bankrupt if we don't do it. But Republicans and Democrats get in office and they tell people what they want to hear, which unfortunately is the same thing Trump's doing. He's telling people what they want to hear. Sometimes the truth is not what people want to hear.
Well, John, who's changed anything in Washington lately?
Well, the problem is you had some
Democrat or
Obama
Republican.
Well, I'll give you here's
Obama. He's the only one.
Here's the one thing that worries me. For example, in Louisiana, Bobby Jindal changed things. Bobby Jindal got elected because he said, I'm going to cut the size of government, which is a traditional conservative Republican message. He actually did it. Guess what? His popularity fell because even the people in Louisiana who claim to be conservative, who claim to be Republicans, they went, oh, but I like government to do this for me.
Christie did the same thing.
Huh?
Christie did the same thing in New Jersey, didn't he?
In some regards, not like Jindal was conservative across the board. Mm-hmm. And so from a conservative standpoint, what are you fussing about? Well, you're fussing because you're not really conservative. We may have crossed over the tipping point where too many people are getting too much out of government. And unfortunately, no one looks far enough down the road to see that there's an end of this gravy train.
Yeah.
Well, the problem with government right now is career politicians, I think.
I don't disagree with you there.
All right, let's take a break. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson. We'll be right back after this.
Whoop FM is your hometown oasis. WOOP LP Cleveland. Whoop Island. Radio 99.
Check into cash.
The cash you need today is waiting for you at Check Into Cash. It's your money, so come in and get it.
Get a payday advance today for up to $425. At Check Into Cash, we make it quick, easy, and confidential.
The cash you need is right here, so stop worrying and stop in to Check Into Cash today.
Borrowers often use payday advances over a period of months, which can be expensive. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
Did you know that U.S. Money Shops cashes all checks, even the ones most check cashers reject? Tax refund checks, government checks, payroll checks, and many more. And when you cash a check with U.S. Money Shops, we'll give you 10% off your next purchase. At U.S. Money Shops, we have everything you need at a fraction of regular retail. So stop by one of our 11 locations or visit us online at usmoneyshops.com.
Buy or sell or coin today, the better way at U.S. Money Shops.
Some restrictions may apply. See store for details.
If you need a little green, Lending Frog is making deals. He'll lend you cash on any kind of wheels. Borrow just a little, or you can borrow big. Lending Frog is a new financial gig. It's hip to hop into cash. LendingFrog.com is making a splash. Dig it, dig it. Dig it, dig it.
Hello, my name is Andy Figglestaller with Ed Jacobs & Associates. We are an employee benefit and insurance broker in business for the past 20 years. The new healthcare law, also known as Obamacare, has finally arrived. The law is complex and the choices are confusing. You have questions, we have the answers. It is our passion to find cost-effective solutions for every client. The solutions will be different for every person or business. Let our knowledge, experience, and passion go to work for you. Contact us today and let us assist you through this process. Our phone number is 423-473-0202, or you can find us on the web at edjacobs.com.
Train engineers put our heating and cooling products through almost every test imaginable. So while you're sending your kids to school, they're sending 10,000 volts through a compressor. Testing like this is the reason Train is so reliable, and why our engineers prefer their steaks. Well done.
Ready to indulge in Train comfort? Call a Train comfort specialist at Mechanical Systems, 336-5739. High quality service and installation for more than 30 years.
It's hard to stop a train. Really hard.
Call before May 31st and pay no service fee.
Yeah, you looking for something sweet? I know you are. Bring your little sweet self to the Village Bake Shop. Around since 1961, there ain't a baked good in the galaxy the Village Bake Shop can't whip up for you. So when you're ready to treat your mouth to a taste you won't soon forget, get over to the Village Bake Shop in the Village Green Town Center, or give them a call at 476-5179. You dig?
No dealers allowed.
Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933, offering the best with over 70 styles of recliners, sofas, electronic lift chairs, full living room packages. Call Mike now at 961-7239 because Jackson Catnapper now offers sales to the public
Every Saturday. That's right, every Saturday.
from 8 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. Or call Mike at 961-7239 or go see him
Every Saturday.
at 1911 King Edward Avenue, just across from the main plant. Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933. 961-7239.
No dealers allowed.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson on Whoop FM. Call 423-614-5553 to join in on the conversation. Now, back to Backfire.
All right, welcome back with John Stanberry, myself, and Daniel Brantley this morning. Again,
Steve!
Yeah, Steve, John.
You actually do that pretty well, Daniel.
You heard enough, you kind of figured out.
Franklin has gone to Chicago to recharge his batteries.
John!
All right, the Clinton Foundation.
Yep.
Do you think there's going to be any kind of conflict? Oh, wait a minute, we got a phone call, John. Go ahead, caller, you're live.
Good morning, Steve, John, and Daniel.
Hey, buddy, how are you?
I recognize that one of them voices who's been on Mark Grissom show.
That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just want to comment on who I hope is going to be our president. I tell you, if people does not vote Donald Trump in there, we all deserve what we're going to get. And that's going to be hard for. I don't know if our country's going to survive if we don't get something done.
No, you're probably right. I mean, if Hillary goes in, I'm afraid you're right. We won't survive.
I didn't know if you guys heard or not, but I just want to tell you guys to keep your thoughts out for the Reddy Wildcats family. She passed away.
Who?
Reddy Wildcat.
Oh, redheaded. Oh, she passed away?
Yeah.
Oh, the
sorry.
Wildcat passed away.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I hate to hear that.
And I just want you guys to keep your thoughts out. I said a little something about her Whoop on Wheels last night, and she was a woman that was set in her ways, but I always got, I actually caught a side of her nobody knew. She was actually kind and a bit-hearted woman towards me, but I just want to say that this morning about her. She was a long-time Whoop caller.
Oh, yeah, she was. All right, well, thanks for telling me about that.
Okay, guys, let's talk to you.
Have a good one.
Okay, you
Thanks.
too. I've got to talk to you a minute about the Clinton Foundation.
Well, actually, I'm looking the news right behind you that 50% of the people still saying the Democrat Party would support Clinton even if she's indicted.
Dum da dum dum.
Dum da dum dum.
Can't make it up.
Is it because she's a female or what is it?
No, it's just because they don't have a standard.
Well, I mean, why would they vote for somebody like Hillary not proving anything? I mean, she's a female. I can see why a lot of the females might want to support a female, but I can't understand what she's done to be deserving to be a president.
Well, she's fought for women's rights for years. She's always stood up for them and done the right thing.
Except for when her husband was molesting them and pushing them up against the wall, and they were threatening her political dynasty so she could destroy them.
John!
Other than that, and of course, other than taking money from all of the Muslim countries around the world, matter of fact,
John!
one of the Muslim countries has just issued a decree that husbands can only beat their wives lightly. And that's apparently an improvement. But the Clinton Foundation has taken money from all of those Arab countries that women are terribly mistreated in.
Well, that's